Have you guys been wanting to make cheesesteak sandwiches but weren't sure how? This right here is going to provide some yum yum in the tum tum.
Bigfoot cooking.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Bigfoot Cooking, where today we are making cheesesteak sandwiches. We're going to throw down a Philly cheesesteak. We're going to do a homemade Becky May. Y'all know who Becky May is? She got some good cheesesteaks. We're going to do a Becky May cheesesteak sandwich, and then we're going gourmet. We're doing an ostrich cheesesteak. Stick around for that one. You'll be like, ooh, maybe that's something I should make. Now, this right here is all the things that we're going to do, but we're going to break them down each sandwich at a time. So first, let's get started with the Philly cheesesteak. Now, to begin our 3-cheese bonanza, we're going to start with a Philadelphia version. Now, looking on the internet and talking to some of my northern friends, there seems to be no real consensus on what the 100% Philly cheesesteak is. Some of them say peppers and onions. Some of them say ketchup and mustard. I've given up on trying to really drill it down. I even looked at some of the restaurants up there. So this is what I, a true Southern man, who has never been to Philadelphia, this is my attempt at a Philly cheesesteak. So we're gonna start out, we're using hoagie bread. Now, is there an actual bread for Philly? Yes, there is. It's it's pointed at the end. It's a little bit longer, but down here in the South, this is the closest thing we have at the bakery. We're gonna be using provolone cheese. And again, I've seen where they use Cheese Whiz, American. It's almost a pick your own, but we're using provolone. We're gonna use a green pepper. We're gonna go ahead and dice it up. We're gonna dice up a yellow onion because that is the one thing that it seems like everybody agrees on. The onion, you have to have onion in the mix. And then for the meat. Now, this time what we're gonna do, we're going to use a New York strip. You could use ribeye. I mean, I guess you could use hamburger. It depends on your budget. But they were having a sale. We picked us up some New York strips. Now, the reason why the meat's not sitting on the table yet, I've got it in the freezer. After you get it home, you don't want to freeze it, but you put it in the freezer for 30, 45 minutes, somewhere in there. It stiffens up the meat and helps when you go to do the slicing on it. So while that's cooling over there, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the veggies speed style. Check this out. Might I also say, before we get too far in the speed, these are huge peppers. I don't know what's going on right now. It may be the perfect time to buy it. These guys are monsters. Now, back to the speed. Now, I hope you caught that with the onions. Instead of just dicing them up really small, I left them longer. That way they have a little bit more texture when you cook them up, and hopefully you'll be able to find them in all this other flavor. So now it's time to grab our steaks. And just like you saw with the onions, we're gonna trim this steak down real thin, real small, so it cooks real fast. And there you go. Nicely itty bitty pieces of meat. I'm gonna take the fat and we're actually gonna cook it with the onions. That way it gives it a little more flavor, lets that fat render down. So now, before we get too happy with anything else, we're gonna go outside to the flat top to fix all these vittles. Let's go. All right, hopefully the lighting is good. It's kind of hard to say because, well, this is the first time I'm actually putting my little flat top griddle on the TV. So we're gonna take us and put us on our vegetables. We're gonna start with our greens and our onions. And the fatty part of the steaks that I didn't trim, we're gonna go ahead and set these on there too. That way they can help render out a little bit of flavor to it. And we're just gonna play with these guys and get them till they're all nice and tenderized. And don't forget your seasoning. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. That's right. Ooh. Things are smelling good and we're only 1 minute in. Can't wait for these to get done. I'm kind of hungry for a good sandwich. Now while this is going on, we're gonna go ahead and take our buns and we're gonna go ahead and butter them up and set them to the side. That way, we can get a little bit of toast on them, because after all, why not have flavor on everything you eat? And nothing like a little homemade garlic herb butter to just set this thing oh so right. Oh yeah. So come on, boys, make a little room, make a little room. We gotta have all of this on here. Oh, just set that guy there. Keep waiting on these things to soften up some. All right, onions are pretty much starting to get a little bit of that brown bits on the end. Let's see how our bread looks. Oh, whew. Not only is it hot, it's right. Let's go ahead and pull these guys off. And oh yeah, that one too. We're good to go. Now I'm gonna slide these off of it and we're gonna drop the meat on and ooh, the smell. As that one guy says, time to go to Flavor Town. Oh, big old pieces of steak right here just waiting. And don't forget, a little bit of salt and pepper always brings the flavor out. How y'all like how my big piece is cooked up? Almost looks like a little stingray. All right, these guys are almost done. We're gonna go ahead and dump back in the rest of this, and that way they can finish their cooking together. That way everything gets everything tasting like everything. You know, everything. All right, these are the two that are bound for the sandwich now. The rest of the pile, that's for later. So we're gonna take our provolone, set it on there. That way the rest of the heat can go ahead and get it to pull right into the meat and just make it taste just so right. Oh, tell you what, we're gonna go a little heavy. I'm gonna put an extra slice right here in the middle of them. We're just waiting now for that to kind of goo down in there. Now this is another one of those parts I'm not so sure on. Again, my local Yankee said that you have to put mayonnaise on it. All right, well, I haven't been to Philadelphia, so I'll trust in her word. All right, and this guy right here is about ready. We're gonna go ahead and set him on top, slide under, flip, and ooh, look at that. Close this baby up, and we have a Southern Philadelphia. Let me get the other one off before it burns. Now let's go ahead and let's see how much of this I can make disappear in one quick bite. You know, on a second thought, let me make that 2 quick bites. You know, for something quick and easy, this ain't too bad. I may have to do a road trip to Philadelphia to see how it's done right. One thing I will say with the steak, should have cut it a little bit thinner, but man, it tastes good. Now, we got the Philly one done. Let's work on the Becky May one, because that one is pretty simple, and I know it's good because I've had them before. So we got the first one done. Now let's get started on the Becky May version. And to do this, we're gonna use some Kerrygold butter. That's right, that Irish butter. It's a little different fat content than what you get here. We're gonna put a nice coating of it right here. Get this thing all melted up and gooey. Woo! Now we're gonna take our mushrooms and go ahead and get them in the butter. We'll get them cooking up because they do take a minute. Yes, you can use canned if you want to do this quickly, but to me, fresh mushrooms just have a little different flavor and just a little extra something. So we'll get them a go in here. Now you're gonna cook the mushrooms basically until just about all the white is gone and everything looks nice and brown. And once we do that, then I'm gonna put on the, oh crap, I forgot something. Here's your roast beef. Becky May, thank you. Yeah, almost forgot the roast beef. Thanks, hon. All right, we got the roast beef that we're gonna set on this next. And of course, can't forget this. And let me show you a little way to butter your buns without so much work. You just put you a nice coating of butter on the griddle, get it nice and thick, and then, why, you just lay your bread right on it. Boom. Move it around. It'll suck up all that buttery goodness. Let me hit it again. Got one more to get. That stuff melts fast. Tell you what, it is a world of difference from what generally we have in America as far as butter goes. But man, the flavor, it's got a whole different taste to it. Something I highly recommend you try. Mushrooms look good. Now we're just gonna take our roast beef and just kind of plop it down. You want to kind of separate it some so that way it's not a giant wad of meat per se. Now I started out with about a pound of this, went to the deli counter and said, hey, give me the good stuff. And they went, no problem. They gave me the good stuff and charged accordingly. We're gonna kind of set this out a little bit. And then the Worcestershire, however y'all want to say it. We're just gonna plop some of the Worcestershire sauce right here on this here thing. Not too much, but just enough to kind of get a good coating on everything. Stir it around some more. Get everybody nice and hot. And as far as something that cooks fast, this is it. Because pretty much other than the mushrooms, everything else is already done. You just gotta stir it around, hot it up. Can't forget the Worcestershire. Get you a little pile there. Well, let's see, there we go. Everything's symmetrical. We're gonna put our mushrooms here. Mushrooms here. Get on in there. Hey, no stragglers. We're gonna hit it with just another dab now that we're assembled. And of course, what's a good cheese sandwich without cheese, right? We have our American, and I went ahead, you pull it out of the wrapper and stack it up like this, makes things simple. Lay it on there and pull the plastic off. And don't let it stick to the grill. We're not trying to cook a plastic sandwich. Oh no. We'll give that just a few minutes, let that melt down in there. About that time the buns will be done. They both come up and then they both disappear. All right, everything is melting in. We're gonna take our bun, set it like this, because unfortunately they came apart in the toasting process. Slide under, flip over. Ooh, and there you have deliciousness. And let me get the other one before it burns. Now I gave it just a second to cool down because I got it right off of here and it was hot. And I tell you what, I do know that Becky May do know how to fix up a sandwich because this is her recipe. And we gonna eat now. Okay, maybe it's still hot. But for a nice hot sandwich, oh, this can't be beat, and quick. I mean, you're literally minutes on the grill, whether it's on a griddle outside or whether you're in the house in the frying pan or even one of them fancy electric plug-in things. This right here, this will fill the bill. Now, we're gonna go inside for the next part because I gotta get the ostrich meat ready. Yep, ostrich meat. It's game on, y'all. And now, time for the gourmet version of the cheesesteak. That's right, for this one, we're using ostrich. Now these guys, believe it or not, they're in Idaho. Out of all the strange places to think of getting an ostrich meat from, Idaho is the place to go. Those guys, they know how to take care of stuff. You can check them out in the link below, and I'm telling you, I highly recommend you guys drop an order to them. I'm not getting a kickback on anything you buy. I'm just letting you guys know this is the place to go. Now for this one, we're using an ostrich top loin as the meat. From there, we've got our white onion. We're gonna do a little salt, pepper, and sriracha just for a little bit of heat. We've got some smoked Gouda for the cheese element. And then of course our bell pepper, we're doing mushrooms, and we're gonna do this on a cheese bread. That's right. This is gonna be really good. But first, we gotta start by slicing the meat. Now, like you saw in the first one, I cut it by hand. It actually was a little bit thicker than I wanted. So I went ahead and I broke out my meat slicer. Let me show you how this guy works. To begin this, we're gonna take our top loin, set it over here on the cutter. We're going to simply set it on the bed, set it where it goes against this right here, and we're gonna push it into the blade. Now I've had this thing for years and it's actually held up pretty good. That's why I'm gonna leave a link to it down below. I've tried it, I've tested it, I've cut steaks, I've cut pork chops, and it does pretty good. It opens and closes, gets you to about a 1/2 inch thickness on it, or in this case, we're doing really thin strips. I want this nice and thin when we put it on the flat top. Unfortunately, it's a little bit noisy. That's the only drawback, but man, it is 100% foolproof. So let's kick the power on and get cutting some steak? Sure, some top loin ostrich. All right, I think I'm gonna stop right here. That gives me a piece I'm just gonna knife out by hand. But other than that, we have us some nicely shaved ostrich meat ready for the grill. Now let's prep our onions, our peppers, and our mushrooms. I won't do it the long way. We're gonna do it the fast way. Buckle up. before I cut this last mushroom, I wanted to point out something to you guys. While I'm no expert on knife work, there are some tricks that will help you cut a little better, especially when you're dealing with something delicate like a mushroom. For instance, as I'm cutting, I'm not just going and cramming down into it. I'm actually coming back with a knife and pushing forward through it. And that pushing is kind of like a saw. And that little bit of sawing is what makes it where you can cut this without masticating it or bruising it or what have you. Just a little something that, you know, as you wonder, how is it folks cut tomatoes and everything just oh so nice? Watch the knife. They're not just stabbing down, they're going into it and gliding through it, either forward or back. Same thing when you're cutting herbs and spices. Same rules apply. So now that everybody in here is cut up and stuff, time to head back out to the outside world where the hot is hot and we gonna cook it. That's right. Once again in the outside world. And we're gonna take our lovely Kerrygold Irish butter and we're gonna pull us up a big old dollop on it on here. That's right. We don't want none of the veggies to stick, and besides, butter always makes it better, right? So we'll get that guy melted in. Go ahead and slide on the peppers, because to me the peppers seem to take the longest to soften up. I could be wrong, but we've got our onions really thin sliced. So since this is thicker, we're gonna give it just a few extra minutes before we plop the rest of it on. All right, now that these guys have a couple of minutes head start, we're gonna go ahead and put in our nicely cut onions, get them in here, get them softening up, get them ready for the yum. Little pepper and salt don't hurt either, right? Oh yeah. Gotta have a little bit of everything in here. Now, if you were cooking this in sort of a figure watching type of deal, you could do less butter and you could do more like avocado oil or something a little more healthy. But in this case, I'm just going for flavor. And yes, while ostrich is an extremely lean meat, it burns real easy if you don't watch it. You've got to have some kind of oil because it does not produce its own. That's why if you're not using butter, avocado oil, or just some neutral oil, something to keep it from sticking. You know why you can put so many of these in there? Because they don't take up much room. Oh, ba-doom, boom. Hey, get these guys laid out nicely so they can go ahead and start cooking down too. Oh yeah, we're coming along nicely here. We got a little butter on our bread. We're gonna go ahead and make a little room so we can get these guys toasting down too. Oh, I'm telling you, this is gonna be so righteous. All right, everything's coming together nice. Now let's go ahead. We're gonna lube up our little flat top here. And in comes the ostrich. That's right. Cluck for me, Betty. Oh, we'll go ahead and start it browning up. And once it gets a little bit of color on it, we're gonna mix it back in with all the rest of the veggies. Can't forget salt, pepper, and sriracha if I can hit it with the wind. I think I'm cooking more of the seasoning on the grill here than I am on the meat. Let's see if I can round up some of it, bring it back home. Now let me show you all a little difference in the richness of butter. We have a compound butter here. And if you look, we're already starting to toast up a little bit. The other side's getting nice and hot. That's an American butter. But the stuff, the Kerrygold, can't even change color yet. Oh yeah. Difference in flavor, difference in fats, makes a whole difference in the way you're cooking. Just like this meat. Notice it's sliding, it ain't glued down either. And it's the way to go when you want to do it uppity uppity. Time for all our ingredients to become friends now. Oh yeah. Let me introduce the flavor to the goodness. Now, we got the first part done. Let's take our smoked Gouda and set all this on there. Let it do a nice melt in, because ooh, the smoky flavor. Plus, Gouda is a really cheesy cheese if you've ever messed with it. It's got a nice little flavor to it. I think we've waited long enough. We're just gonna take our Kerrygold one, set it right on top, whoop, right underneath, flip, strip, and ooh, look at that. That says eat, boys. Let me get the other one off. Now, how's that looking? Is that right there not a thing of beauty? Oh, not only is it a thing of beauty, it's about to be a thing of dinner. Let me pick it back up here without the plate. Never thought you'd see a cheesesteak with ostrich meat in it, did you? Well, today is your lucky day. Then again, it's my lucky day. I'm about to eat it. You know, I should have put the Gouda on the rest of them. That smoked Gouda actually tastes really good with this whole, just everything working together, and that hint of sriracha just to give it a little something. You know, I do know one thing. I know this is a really good sandwich, and I do know that even from the front porch, Bigfoot is real. Y'all take care. I'm eating. Oh. So we got the first one done. Now let's get to I learned that on YouTube. So I wanted to finish up the show today and tell you about this place in Cherry Log, Georgia. That's right, Expedition Bigfoot. I mean, come on. This is an entire museum here dedicated to everything Bigfoot. So guys, if you didn't think Bigfoot was real, this place wouldn't be here. I'm telling y'all, just the existence of this place proves that Bigfoot is real.